Hey guys, welcome back to another Dark Side Hero Guide. Today, I'll be covering one of the most fun and unique heroes in Battlefront 2, Boba Fett. Boba has an extremely fun playstyle. He can also be a bit of a challenge, which in my opinion just makes him even more fun to play. In this video, we'll be going over Boba Fett's health and blaster, all of his abilities and their stats, then on to tips, star cards, and best maps for cheaper game modes, then finally tips, star cards, and heroes to watch out for in hero game modes. As you can see, I'm going to be going over a lot of information in this video. So if you want to skip ahead, you can do that by checking out the timestamps on this video. Also, I created a Discord server a little while ago, so if you want to chat about pretty much anything, then you can join my Discord. The link is in the description. Lastly, if you enjoyed this video, then leave a like, and consider subscribing if you're new. Most of my viewers aren't subscribed, so it would be great to get those numbers up. But now, getting into the video. Boba has pretty easily the worst stats in the game. Everything about him is pretty weak and makes for low survivability. So that's why Boba's strengths really lie in his jetpack and utilizing that to the best of your abilities. Boba has a low health of 600, the lowest of any hero. This means you have to be extremely careful of where and when you are taking on your opponents. Boba Fett requires the most situational awareness of anyone, and failing to have awareness of your situation can easily get you killed. Boba also has a low health regeneration of 150, so once he accidentally takes a little bit too much damage, then you're going to have to play it cautiously and slowly get back your health. Boba's blaster has a lot of strengths and weaknesses. It really is all dependent on aim. Boba Fett is the only hero that can't aim down sights with his blaster, making it hard to aim from far away. Boba's EE3 fires 3-round burst. Each shot does 35 damage to the body, making for a total of 105 damage if you hit all your shots. So if you're hitting every single shot, then you can kill any infantry in 2 bursts. It's 63 damage to the head per shot for a total of 199 damage to the head if you hit all your shots. The EE3 can fire 10 bursts before overheating, which is pretty good, plus it cools down very quickly. The spread for the blaster is pretty tight, so it's quite a pretty accurate rifle, but it does have a good amount of recoil, so you need to practice getting good at managing that. Plus, the drop-off is decent. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. Now on to abilities. Boba doesn't have the strongest set of abilities. None of them are great for multi-kills or really help Boba out that much. For the Hunt is valuable for that extra jetpack fuel. Rocket Barrage can take out 1 or 2 enemies, and then Concussion Rocket helps out a little bit against blasters. So overall, not the best. Boba's left ability is Concussion Rocket. This blinds anyone hit by the missile for 5 seconds and immediately overheats blasters and cancels any weapon-based abilities. When lightsaber heroes are hit, they cannot lock onto Boba, so they won't be able to lunge at Boba for a few seconds. It has a cooldown of 15 seconds. The radius is pretty good, so you don't have to directly hit your enemies, and you can also affect multiple enemies if they are close enough together. For my keynotes, make sure you are using this ability regularly. It may not seem that good, but against Boba, that couple of seconds of not losing health can easily save hundreds of health for Boba, especially if there is a group of enemies. It's the same thing against heroes. When you're going up against another blaster hero, those couple of seconds to get in that extra damage can be a pretty big help. And blinding a lightsaber hero can give you just a bit of time to get away from your opponent. Boba's middle ability, and probably the most important ability, is for the Hunt. This gives Boba unlimited jetpack fuel. It also reveals enemy locations to Boba and removes him from the minimap. It lasts for 8 seconds and has a cooldown of 10 seconds. For my keynotes, use this ability when your jetpack fuel is full, so you can have a longer amount of fuel. If the fuel is full, then you can continuously use Boba's jetpack for 13 seconds. If you activate for the Hunt while Boba's fuel is empty, then you can use Boba's jetpack for 8 seconds, then you have to wait for his jetpack fuel to regenerate, since the fuel doesn't regenerate while For the Hunt is active. This pause can be annoying and will limit your important movement. You also need to utilize the fact that For the Hunt reveals enemies. This is always really good, so when enemies are revealed to you, make sure you push into an area and fall back to safe areas. In general, since Boba is so fragile, it's usually not a good idea to go into areas with multiple enemies without For the Hunt active. Boba's right ability is Rocket Barrage. Boba fires 5 rockets from his gauntlet that does heavy damage to anyone it hits. Each rocket does 75 damage per shot within 1 meter, so you don't have to hit your shots directly, and hitting your shots beyond that will still do good damage. If you hit all 5 shots, then you can do a total of 375 damage, but some of your shots are gonna miss in cheaper game modes. So I'd say the average use of this ability gets me around 250 damage against infantry, but more against heroes. That's enough to one-shot all infantry, so this ability is good for taking out a group of enemies that are grouped up together, and it deals heavy damage against heroes. The big problem is it doesn't have a very big area of effect. Other grenades will have a much larger effect and can take out more enemies, but Rocket Barrage doesn't do this, so you're not going to be getting big multi-kills with this ability. It also has a cooldown of 20 seconds, which is pretty long. For my keynotes, you need to make sure you use this ability in the air. It's hard to aim it from the ground, and you're not going to be doing much splash damage. But if you fly up into the air above your opponent for just a second, then you can easily get in more damage. The other thing is to use this ability at the right time, because you are a bit vulnerable when you use Rocket Barrage. So what I like to do is use Concussion Rocket before I use Rocket Barrage, so I can save myself some extra health. Now, this isn't really an ability, but I do want to go over Boba's jetpack quickly. It lasts for about 5 seconds and has a cooldown of about 11 seconds. Boba's jetpack will let Boba fly around to wherever he wants. It's a pretty good jetpack, but I would prefer it if he had the same one as the First Order Jet Trooper, since that one is much better. For my keynotes, you will get more out of Boba's jetpack if you just tap the fuel. Basically, instead of using it all at once and holding down flying, I recommend tapping the trigger. You only burn fuel when you're pressing the trigger, so if you only tap it, you will go farther with the same amount of fuel. Another useful thing to remember is that you can dodge in midair. This is good to get behind cover or avoid some blaster shots since it makes you harder to hit. In Galactic Assault and Supremacy, Boba can go on some really long kill streaks. He can fly around and completely destroy everyone with his quick firing blaster. But Boba is not someone you take objectives with. He doesn't have the health or abilities to do so. If he goes into an objective without being careful, you can be sure he will die quickly. So Boba definitely isn't the person you want to be going into an objective. Now on to tips. Aiming is everything in Galactic Assault and Supremacy for Boba. With some bad aim, you can easily lose a lot of health in a gunfight, and with good aim, you'll be hitting shots while you're flying through the air and racking up kills. It's difficult to aim with Boba, but there are things to do to get better at aiming his blaster. One thing a lot of people recommend, and I think is good too, is to go into arcade or co-op and just practice aiming. Against bots, you can sit back and practice your long-range shooting, and you can practice going up in the air and shooting at people. Another way to improve your aim is to find a good sensitivity. If you usually play with high sensitivity, then you are going to have trouble aiming with Boba. So when you play Boba, try lowering or find a better sensitivity that you can aim better with. Another tip I have is that you really need to conserve your jetpack fuel with Boba. If you don't need to use it, I recommend not using it. Because if you use all your jetpack fuel to get from point A to point B, then when you run into the enemies at point B, it's not going to go good when you don't have any jetpack fuel. So make sure you conserve your fuel and you don't get all jetpack happy. Boba also needs to be careful of who and what he is fighting. Heroes can instantly ruin Boba's kill streaks if you're not careful, and a reinforcement that is hitting their shots will do a lot of damage against Boba. Another thing is explosives also disable Boba's jetpack. So grenades, bowcasters, and explosive shots will knock you down and leave you vulnerable, so you need to watch out for that. Boba is another hero with a good amount of crappy cards, but having the right cards can definitely help you out. The first card is Focalize. The extra damage to Rocket Barrage helps you out against infantry and helps you get that kill. The next card is Extended Exposure. This card extends the time that Boba reveals enemies with For the Hunt. Revealing enemies is always a great ability and helps you out a lot, so extending that time helps out Boba. The last card is Born to Fly. Boba's abilities cool down quicker when he's flying with this card. The quicker cooldown of your abilities is really nice to have. For Boba's best maps, Boba is definitely a more situational hero, so he isn't a character that you can do well with on any map. So my first map is Kashyyyk. This is the perfect open map with cover, which is perfect for Boba. If the map is too closed off, then Boba's jetpack will be limited a lot, and at a map with not enough cover, Boba will get destroyed because he has nowhere to go when he is taking damage, so he takes pretty much constant damage. The next map is Yavin 4. It's the same thing as Kashyyyk, where it is open with cover. Plus, there are usually temples and other objects to stand on to shoot down at people. The last map is Hoth. Boba can do good on all phases of this map, so it's not hard to get a nice kill streak. Boba can also be a dominating and annoying force in heroes vs villains, and can do good in 2v2s. But Boba takes time to get his playstyle right. But once you get down all of Boba's components, you will do as good as any other hero. For my tips, you need to find the right playstyle with Boba. You can't be aggressive like other blaster heroes and dodge around. You'll get killed a lot and you won't be doing a ton of damage. You also can't just fly around and stay way out of reach of everyone. If you're just constantly flying away, you'll stay alive and pick up a couple of kills, but you won't get nearly the same amount of kills than if you play Boba otherwise. When you fly away, you can't do that good. Plus, it's pretty toxic and yeah, just don't do that. So you have to find a mix, where you're being aggressive and can do a lot of damage, but you're still being out of range of attacks and dodging out of cover. My other tip is that you need to always be paying attention to what hero you are playing against. So against some heroes like Han and Anakin, you need to keep your distance, and others like Obi-Wan and Lando, you can be more aggressive. So if you pay attention to who you're playing against, you're going to be getting a lot more kills. For Boba's HVV star cards, the first one I like is once again Focalize. The extra damage is really good against heroes and dealing with them easier. Next is Augmented Gear. When Boba hits multiple enemies with Concussion Rocket, his fuel consumption is stopped. In HVV, enemies tend to group up, so it's not hard to hit multiple people with Concussion Rocket. So then having that extra fuel gives Boba a big advantage. The last card I'm going to have to go with is Born to Fly. It's not a perfect card, but Boba doesn't really have any more good cards, so that's my loadout. Now on to heroes Boba needs to be careful of. The first one, and a very major one, is Anakin. This is because of how easy it is for him to pull, push, and get 2 hits on you. When that happens, you're pretty much dead. So you need to try to keep out of range of Anakin. The next hero is Chewbacca. Chewie is a really effective counter to Boba. His bowcaster knocks down Boba and limits his jetpack a lot. Plus, Furious Bowcaster can absolutely melt Boba with his low health. The last hero is Finn. His big deal can make it hard for Boba to do much damage, and Deadeye is really good against Boba since it's so hard for Boba to escape it with his jetpack. But that is all for my Boba Fett hero guide. Boba is a really fun and chill hero, so I think it's definitely worth it to practice with Boba and get better with him. Because once you do get good with him, he is such an awesome hero. Thank you guys for watching this video, especially to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and it helped you out. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.